Chapter 2 Mystery Offer. "Help!" a woman screamed, and there were cries of, "Get me out of here!" The falling canvas had short-circuited the lights, and darkness added to the confusion. Louise was lying face down on the ground. Humping her back, she managed to push up the heavy weight of the canvas and called her sister and friends. Amid the groans and shouts around her, she heard no answer from them. "I must get out," she thought. "Then I can help the others." She inched her way over the ground towards one edge of the fallen tent and finally reached fresh air, where she stood up shakily. By this time, rescuers had come running and were lifting up ends of the canvas. Flashlights were beamed under it while Louise saw people struggling to get up while others lay still. She bent low and hurried underneath to where she saw Doris and Evelyn scrambling to their knees. "You all right?" Louise scanned their faces. I guess so," Evelyn replied shakily. "Sure," said Doris. "Where's Jean?" The girls looked around quickly. "There!" exclaimed Louise. Her sister lay unmoving beside the wreckage of the refreshment stand. Anxiously, Louise hurried over and knelt beside Jean. She felt her pulse. "It's kind of weak," she said to the other two girls, but she only fainted. "Need some help?" asked a masculine voice. One of the rescuers had paused beside the girls. Louise asked him to carry Jean outside, where he put her down on the grass. Jean's eyelids fluttered. "Shall I get a doctor?" he asked. "She's coming around now," said Doris. "We'll call if you need one," Louise said, and thanked the man as he hurried away to assist the rescuers. Jean's eyes opened. "Where am I?" she asked. "What happened?" Then she grinned weakly. "I remember hitting my head on the refreshment stand." "Are you okay?" Louise asked anxiously. Jean sat up and rubbed her head. "I've got a small lump there, but I guess I'll live." With a rueful grin, she got up. "Maybe we ought to help the others," Jean remarked. But as she glanced at the scene of the accident, she saw that the rescue operation was well in hand, though hampered by the strong winds that had caused the tent to collapse. The storm, which had been rising, now broke into a torrent of rain. "Oh!" exclaimed Jean, "the end of a perfect evening." "You'd better get back to school," Louise said. "News of the accident may have been on the radio. If Mrs. Crandall heard it, she'll be worried." Mrs. Crandall was the headmistress of Starhurst. Though stern, she was always fair in her judgments, and the Danas liked her very much. Evelyn began to laugh. "Wait till she sees us!" The girls looked at one another and broke into laughter. The front of Louise's pink suit was brown with dust, which was rapidly turning to mud under the rain. Jean's trim navy coat had a torn hem, and like the other two girls, the Danas had dirt-streaked faces. "Oh!" gasped Doris. "We're a mess!" "It isn't funny," said Jean, trying to keep a straight face. "Our clothes are ruined." She broke into giggles again. "Come on," said Louise. "It won't help to stand here getting soaked." "It can't make us look any worse," said Evelyn, as she followed the others, still laughing. By the time the girls reached the main exit, they were drenched. As they made their way through the crowd on the sidewalk, the Starhurst station wagon pulled up to the curb. When the school driver saw them, he stared, speechless. "We're all right, really," Louise assured him. The girls told him what had happened. "We've just been a little hysterical," Evelyn added, and sighed, exhausted. The driver shook his head. "You're lucky you weren't hurt bad." He drove carefully through the downpour towards the main part of Penfield. They just passed through it and got a short distance when there came a sudden loud honking from behind them. The school driver pulled far to the right. A moment later, a car shot past them with two girls in it. "There goes the red car! The first prize!" Jean exclaimed. "Yes, I see the dealer's plates," Louise said as the station wagon's headlights illuminated the back of the speeding car. "And look!" Doris cried. Following the red car was a black sedan. "That's Mr. Denver, I think," Louise exclaimed. "It is," Jean said excitedly. "I got a good look at him." The red car speeded up and the black one did the same. "What's the idea? Is he chasing those girls?" Evelyn asked. Jean leaned forward toward the driver's shoulder. "Follow those cars," she urged. "Please." The school driver shook his head. "That would be against the rules, miss. If those folks are having any trouble, it's best not to get mixed up in it." Though the girls realized he was right, their curiosity had been piqued. It was not long before both speeding cars were out of sight. Doris chuckled. I was just remembering that Mr. Denver wished the winner safe driving. Louise and Jean looked at each other. They were sure there was some mystery connected with what they had just seen. The Dana's friends often said the two sisters had an instinct for mysteries. Recently, at Starhurst School, they had solved the riddle of the frozen fountain and, when in vacation in Florida, uncovered the secret of the silver dolphin. When the station wagon parked in front of the main building of the school, the night watchman opened the door for the girls. He stared in amazement at their rumpled appearance, but before he could say anything, Louise asked, Is Mrs. Crandall worried about us? No, Miss Dana, the man replied. Everything has been quiet here. Whatever happened? Briefly, the girls told him, then started for their rooms. Wait, he said. You surprised me so much that I forgot to give you a message. Oh, what was it? Asked Jean. A man in New York City has been trying to get you girls on the phone all evening. He handed Louise a piece of paper. He finally left word you were to call this number the instant you came back. The number was unfamiliar to both sisters. Didn't the man leave his name? Jean asked. The watchman frowned. Well, yes he did, but they were standing on the line, and I didn't quite catch it. He said the call was urgent, though. Mystified, Louise and Jean went to a telephone booth at the far end of the corridor, and Louise called the number. The receiver was picked up instantly, and a deep voice boomed, Hello! Louise started to ask who it was, then broke off and beamed with joy. Uncle Ned, you're in port! Captain Dana was master of the Alaska, a transatlantic liner. My ship's in dock for repairs, he said, and I'm staying with Cousin Cynthia. Now then, he added, are you ready for a big surprise, my hearties? Yes, said Louise, tell us. Tell us what? Whispered Jean. I'm dying of curiosity. Louise shared the receiver with her sister, and both girls' eyes sparkled at their uncle's next words. How'd you like to solve a mystery in New York? Would we? They chorused. As their questions tumbled out, Captain Dana exclaimed, Hold hard there, one at a time. Then he chuckled. All I know, it's a weird one, but I'll leave the telling to Cynthia. It's her mystery. He explained that the girl's cousin was hoping they'd come to New York to spend their spring vacation with her. Sounds marvelous, said Louise. But what about Aunt Harriet? She'll be looking for us at home. Orphanaged at an early age, Louise and Jean lived with their bachelor uncle and maiden aunt, who were brother and sister. The girls loved the salty sea captain and sweet, understanding aunt as if they had been their own father and mother. Now, don't you worry about that, Captain Dana said. Harriet is invited down here too, I suppose. He went on, You girls are in the middle of exams. Well, I wish you all the luck in the world. We'll need it, Jean called into the phone. Please, Uncle Ned, Louise begged. Give us just one little hint about the mystery. The captain laughed. All right, he said. Did you ever hear of the Wax Queen? For a moment, the girls were too surprised to say anything. Wax Queen? Louise exclaimed. Who is she? Jean giggled. Is she made of wax? One is, one isn't, her uncle replied with a chuckle. There are two of them. You can take your choice. What do you mean? Louise asked, puzzled. And what is weird about it? Jean put in. Well, said the captain uncomfortably, I don't like spooky business, hearing voices and all that. Then he said crisply, Never mind, Cynthia will tell you. He refused to answer any more questions, but told them that their aunt would arrive in New York about the same time they would. That'll be Saturday morning, he said. I went ahead and made reservations for you, he added with a chuckle. You can pick up the tickets at your airport. He said goodnight and the girls hung up. Uncle Ned suddenly made that mystery clear as mud, Jean said with a smile. It sounds fascinating, Louise remarked. I just can't wait. The girls hurried upstairs to their two-room suite consisting of a study and a bedroom. Getting ready for bed, they discussed the upcoming exams. I'll really have to hit the books, said Jean. Then she grinned. If the going gets too tough, We can always think about our Friday night date at Walton Academy. Chris Barton sure is a cool dancer. Louise laughed. Ken Scott is just as cool. All the next day, the girls studied quietly. After dinner, they went back to their books, leaving the door to their suite ajar. Concentrating deeply, they were not aware of someone peering in from the hall. Suddenly, the quiet was broken by a small bang. The girls jumped. "What was that?" Jean asked. There was no need for Louise to answer. A sickening odor was filling the room. End of chapter 2.